Hello, everyone. My name is Virginia, and I want to welcome you today and all those who are present here and present on Zoom. And if you can, we want to keep the Zoomers muted for our program, and the speaker will tell you when we can all share. I want to go ahead with our opening statement. I call it my affirmation. There is only one power and one presence in the universe, God the good, all power, ever present, all knowing, and we are one. And the vision statement, we are a spiritual community with a passion to share love, faith, and hope. And the mission statement, we are an accepting, loving, and faith-filled spiritual community that honors all paths to God. And next, we'll have some announcements.
And yes, I've got a couple of announcements. These are not strictly board announcements, but the first announcement is that we are going to be reopening for hybrid services starting next week, meaning that we are inviting people to come back to the church with the safety guidelines in place, but we are also going to be putting the service on Zoom so that people can attend. They have the choice of coming in on Zoom. So it probably will be kind of bumpy for a little while as we get used to the hybrid service way of doing things. But we invite everyone to participate in whatever way is comfortable for them. The next announcement is that we're going to have our annual meeting. We have scheduled that for the 21st of the month of March. And after the meeting, after the service, and it too will probably be a hybrid meeting, and it will be available on Zoom. Well, this is for voting members. Anyone can attend, but only members can participate. So materials will be sent out by mail to all the voting members so that they will know what the arrangements will be. And also, just on a side note, this has not been official, but a longtime member of the church, Glenn Burgess, has made his transition. And Colleen Redfield, also a member of the church, and his daughter is making arrangements to have a memorial service at the church on the 20th, the day before the membership meeting. And all the details will be coming out later. I will probably be sending email announcement of all of those details, but I just wanted to give everyone a heads up, whether you're listening to this directly on Zoom or listening to the recording later. So those were the announcements that I wanted to take care of. Thank you. So we're going back got to find the places in the books that I've marked for today. We are still talking the month of March. We are talking about one of the 12 powers as put forth by Charles Fillmore, the founder of Unity, or co-founder. And he designated the 12 powers, and we have correlated them with the month of the year. And for March, we are discussing strength. And it's the strength is one of the powers. The location, according to Charles Fillmore's teaching, is the small of the back, and the color associated with it is spring green. And the disciple of the 12 disciples associated with it is Andrew, who is the brother of Peter, who is the disciple that is correlated with January's power, faith. So faith and then strength. And we've been talking about strength through this month of February. I want first to just do a little paragraph from Charles Fillmore's The 12 Powers. Be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might is a great strengthening affirmation for ourselves and for others. Be steadfast, strong, and steady in thought, and you will establish strength in mind and in body. Never let the thought of weakness enter your consciousness, but always ignore the suggestion and affirm yourself to be a tower of strength within and without. And as we've talked about strength, we've also talked about two different versions of strength, the best way I can put it. We've talked about what is considered strong from a societal point of view and what is true inner strength. They're part and parcel of the same thing. However, we kind of distorted some of the things about our third dimensional view of strength. And it was very interesting yesterday. My daughter had posted on Facebook something that was called self-sabotage. It's kind of a definition of self-sabotage. And when I read over these traits, I thought to myself, this is exactly the definition that we usually give to strength in our society. And this is the points, and I wanted to share them with you. And so I guess I would retitle this. It says self-sabotage is also. What I want as a header on this is characteristics of our superficial ideal of strength in our society. It is not asking for help, rejecting praise, isolating yourself when hurt, saying yes to everything, putting your needs on hold, procrastinating on important tasks, and trying to be perfect. And I thought, what a perfect definition of what we think of as strength. But at the same time, that's not the kind of strength that we're talking about when we're talking about the 12 powers, according to Charles Fillmore. We're talking about something that in the book Adventures in Resilience, talking about the 12 powers, what is termed spiritual strength. Spiritualized strength is the power to stand in the spiritual truth we know, to practice spiritual principles even when it is difficult, and to act courageously with the authentic spiritual motives. This strength supports the activity of empowered and sustained direction. And if you can contrast that to the definition that I just gave of societal definition of strength, it's very different because it is not based on expectations of society or from the outside. It is based on the expectations of ourselves within ourselves. And that has been the topic that we keep coming back to all the time with our lessons on strength and, of course, on all of the powers. All of the powers work together. They all come from within, and we can only find them by going within. And so just I'm going to go through the affirmations of strength that come from this book, Adventures in Resilience, because this is the last time we'll be talking directly about strength. The last Sunday next week, we go to the next power, which I'll let you know is wisdom. But in affirming strength, these affirmations are in the book. The strength of God in me gives me all the power I need to lead the life I dream of. I act on the truth I know, the values I hold dear, and the desires of my heart. The more I exercise my faith in the divine presence in me, the stronger I become to do even greater things. And I will leave you with that. Thank you.
We're starting the offertory, and we'd like to have David give us his artistry and his offering. And thank all of you for sharing your gifts, whether material gifts or just gifts of kindness and loving attention. So shall we say together the blessing of our tithes and offerings. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. I just want to announce that Mark is going to be our leader in the meditation and our speaker for today.
And in that relax, we look for the stillness. We look for patience, a sense of trust, a sense of completeness. And I'm going to read 3 poems today. Though life is a creased cloth, it can be ironed out. Though life is a confounded pickle, it can be sorted out. Though life is a spider's web, it can be straightened out. Patience is the key. I asked her, in the innocence of youth, how do you control rage? She chuckled to herself and said, a lot of patience, a lot of prayers. For I often have to bite my tongue instead of biting theirs. Sometimes when life is difficult, she smiled, and it's difficult to be kind, I take what's good ahead of me and leave my hate behind. I was too young to understand then what she was trying to say, but her words have visited me often. They still resonate today. And as we ponder patience, ponder trust, ponder peace, we go into the stillness to find those qualities that are part of our nature because they are part of love. Patience is not sitting and waiting. It is foreseeing. It is looking at a thorn and seeing the rose. Looking at the night and seeing the day. Lovers are patient and knows the moon needs time to become full. And I want to start with that there's a place that's right here. And it's everywhere at the same time. And I call it the place, but it has many names. And the last time I called it God, and love. And today I'm going to call it source or love. And I'm going to start with a story. Now, it's not a totally true story, but it's a story based on true events. And the story goes like this. It's about food shopping. And I was food shopping, and I could hear a child screaming in the store. And then I moved to the milk area, the dairy section, and came behind a tall, wrangly, dark man wearing a light-colored shirt and shiny shoes. And the man opened the glass door and put out a gallon of milk and said, fresh milk, Jamar. And the boy who was in his carriage, in his shopping cart, was probably about 3 years old, maybe 4. He was wearing pajamas, sitting crisscross applesauce at the front of the shopping cart. He opened his mouth, which revealed 2 front teeth that were missing, and then he boomed a loud, rebellious cry. And the man said, "It's okay, Jamar. We're almost finished shopping." And then I opened up the glass door and added milk to my cart. Well, the man nudged his shopping cart into the cereal aisle, and I was still behind him, and the man said, "Look, Jamar, Lucky Charms, your favorite cereal. Yum, yum, yum," and confidently put the cereal in the cart. The boy sobbed and then cried loudly. "I know it's hard for you, Jamar," I heard the man say. "We're almost done. Hang in there. Everything's going to be okay." And I was impressed. And then I took Cheerios, which is what my kids like, and put it in my cart. And so Dad strolled his cart into the magical land of cookies. And peering through the metal cart, the youngster's eyes softened. The waterworks stopped to a mere sniffle, and he stood up and plucked a bag of cookies from the shelf. And his dad said, "Jamar, we will open the cookies when we get home." The toddler looked up at Dad. His lower lip began to quiver, and before Dad could complete his sentence, the young boy started yelping cries that filled the store. "It's okay. It's going to be okay, Jamar. Just a little bit longer," the man said. Admittedly, I was impressed with this guy. The man maneuvered his cart through a maze of shoppers with a child crying, and then I heard him say, "Look, Jamar, grape juice, your favorite," while the little boy reached into new vocal heights, and everyone in the store could hear him screaming. "It's okay, Jamar," the man said, "just a little bit longer." And I continued to be amazed. I was humbled. I met him in aisle 6, laundry detergent. He shook a green bottle of laundry detergent and began rotating the bottle with one hand in a circular motion and saying, "This is the way we launder our clothes, launder our clothes, launder our clothes." The toddler looked up and became silent for a minute, and then he let out some sobs and a scream. "We're almost done, Jamar. Just hang in there a little while longer." And then I lost him. Sometimes I can hear the child screaming a few aisles away, and sometimes I could hear a warm voice saying, "Jamar, we are coming down the stretch. Soon we will be home." Well, I saw him again in the checkout line. And the little boy was red and having a temper tantrum. His face was red. And everyone in front of him encouraged the man to let him go ahead of them. And it was as if everyone became a team and the ocean parted. And they said, "Come on through, come on through." And so the man advanced to the cashier, paid, and then cheerfully thanked everyone. And as the door closed behind him, as he was leaving the shopping center, I can hear him. "I'm proud of you, Jamar. Good job." And then as he left, the store went quiet. Well, in that moment, I just felt an impulse. I want to meet this man. And so, have you ever asked the lady who was in front of you in line, in the shopping line, and asked if you can cut in front of her, and then she gave you the look? Well, I have. So I got out of line, and I left my cart and sprinted into the parking lot. And the man was putting his groceries into the trunk of a blue Buick. And I uttered, "Sir, excuse me." He turned, and I said, "I was behind you many times while we were shopping, and I was amazed by your patience and your nurturing words to your son." He nodded, gave me a warm smile, and in that magical moment, I turned to the little boy and said, "Hi, Jamar, you're going home, and you did such a good job." And in his rosy cheeks, the boy looked at me strangely. And then he looked up at Dad. And an unspoken energy passed between them that I think only father and son could understand. And the man cleared his throat. And he caught my eye. And then he said, "Oh, that's not Jamar. That's Henry. I'm Jamar." And that's the end of the story. I cannot force my will, for my will is your will. My will is your inheritance. I cannot force your inheritance and be patient and be in a place that never forces. I simply trust, basking in the one completeness of my love. I am forever patient and forever extending my guiding hands to yours so that you may be guided to love. I invite you. And one of the qualities of this place that is right here is no forcing. This place will never force. And that no forcing has several qualities. It has the quality of patience, of acceptance, of trusting, kind of a sense of completeness, and of peace. There's many more, but those are the qualities I'll be talking about today. And in this story, I think Jamar set an intention not to force. In other words, he was patient, accepting, trusting, and held a sense of completeness. And I would say he was certainly peaceful. And these qualities are divine, and I believe that they are always here. And we can sometimes sense these qualities in nature. Every tree is patient as it waits for the sun. And when there's a cloudy day, trees are accepting of those cloudy days. And they trust that the sun will return. And these trees hold a sense of completeness and therefore are at peace. And we somehow intuitively sense this when we are in nature. And we can feel a sense that there is no resistance to life. And so we can relax. And so let's start with patience. If or when we move away from patience, Source patiently calls you to return to patience. And I'll be the first to admit I'm not always patient. I get angry. Sometimes I like to control things. I like to control outer conditions so that I can feel better. And kind of off the heels of Abraham Hicks, I'm reminded of an invisible rubber band that's tethered to me, to my hip. And the other end of the rubber band is connected to Source. And the further I move away from Source, the more tension is in the rubber band, and the more tension I feel in my inner life. So when I'm impatient, that inner tension that I feel is calling me back to be patient. Because patience is the embodiment of unconditional love. And love is our nature. And so patience is an expression of Source that is our nature. So the more impatient I am, the tighter the tension in the rubber band, which is calling me back to patience. And when I feel that tension, when I feel that stress, that's a call for me to return to patience. My feelings are telling me so. And in this story, Jamar was listening to that call and returned to patience over and over again. And I would even say he was one with patience. And if you're like me, and do not always listen to the call to return to patience, you will get another chance. After all, love or source is forever patient. And when we harmonize with source, singing its song, we easily accept the gift of patience. And I want to emphasize the word accepting. So let's move on and talk about acceptance. What really is acceptance? That the deeper nature of acceptance is accepting the unconditional love that is right here. And in the story, Jamar was practicing acceptance. He was practicing accepting the love that is right here for himself. And that love took the form of self-care. So acceptance does not mean being a victim to hurtful behavior. In fact, I think it's just the opposite. It holds an empowering wisdom. And that wisdom is sometimes a call for action that will bring benefit to you. In acceptance, we meet with something. We meet with the clarity of source. And it's an intuitive clarity, an intuitive knowing. It could be an insight, a gut feeling that knows what behaviors to move into that will benefit everyone. And when we meet with the clarity of source, we meet with something that is not judging, that is not judgmental. It does not make something right or wrong. And in that clarity, stress falls away. And in the story of Jamar, the father of the boy, he was accepting his child as his child is. He worked on changing himself. The focus was on him. He did not try to change the child. He did not make the child wrong. When the moments when the child was quiet, he did not make the child right. He kept the focus on himself, which is where our source is. It's where love is. And so allowing everything to be as it is, it's a reflection of unconditional love. And in the store, Jamar became a role model of acceptance. I don't think not only for his son, but for everyone in the store, including me, by the way. He accepted the love that is right here, that is packed with wisdom. And he knew intuitively how to soothe himself. And in acceptance, Jamar trusted his sense. He trusted his words. He trusted insights. He trusted a wisdom. He trusted clarity. And so acceptance is accepting the love that is right here. And this takes trust. And so let's touch on trust. I believe that trust is also a quality that does not force, does not control. And a source does not control anything because source trusts that all things will return to love. And we recognize love when we see it, when we hear it. We recognize our nature. We recognize our nature that is love. And we can feel that when we are feeling good about ourselves. We are with love and it feels good. And so I wrote something here that Source will never force its will because Source trusts we will return to love. And in returning to love, we naturally want to share love. And in sharing the love that we are receiving from Source, we are creating like Source. And when we are creating like Source, when we are creating like love, well, we fall in love with life. And there's a trust in that. We trust life in those moments. And love is safe. Life is safe. And so trust is a divine quality. It is is already here, and it is gifted to us. And when we trust, we come closer to ourselves. It's almost as if Source is saying, I trust that you will find your way to yourself. And when the community begins to trust each other unconditionally, a very strong bond is created. And a community becomes a reflection of heaven, as it is in heaven, he said. And in trust, we begin to accept each other just as we are. And in trust, we begin to see each other beautiful. And then we see ourselves beautiful as we look and see each other beautiful. And so we're kind of coming to our inheritance. And healing begins with this trust. And all healing comes from the trust of love within ourselves. And so when we come to trust, there is also a sense of completeness, a sense that everything is okay. So let's talk about completeness. Source never leaves its own love and is untouched by drama, is what I believe. And when we come closer to the facets of the love called completeness, we are untouched by drama. And in this story, Jamar was practicing being with a sense of completeness. He was not triggered by his son's behaviors or the looks of other people or what other people may have been thinking about him. You know, why don't you say something to that child? Why don't you keep your child quiet? Perhaps he was thinking, it's none of my business what other people were thinking. And so in this story, that everything is okay, just the way it is, Jamar bathed in the sense of completeness. Jamar used self-talk. Everything is going to be okay, he said. And he was practicing self-love. He was practicing Source. He was practicing his inheritance of completeness. And in our sense of completeness, we know that everything is going to be okay. And Source is the embodiment of completeness. And it's a gift. It's a gift to us. And when we connect to that gift, that completeness, that all is okay just the way it is, there's a tendency to relax, to breathe. And in this relaxedness, creativity and joy has a chance to flow. And so in completeness, there is trust and safety. We begin to relax, and we become open to impulses and guidance and inspiration. And I'm reminded of a prayer from the Course of Miracles. And I think it's a prayer that many of you have already heard. It goes like this. I am here to be helpful. I am here to represent him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do, because he who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever I am. And I love that last statement. I am content to be wherever I am. And that contentment holds that completeness. And both contentment and completeness hold a sense of peace. So let's talk about peace real quickly. Peace, has anyone had a condition, something outside themselves? Maybe it's politics, where we decided to throw away our peace and then justify losing that sense of peace because it was true. Has anyone ever done that? And I'm just going to ask you to raise your hand if anyone put you in gallery view. Has anyone threw away their peace for any other reason, for whatever reason? Yeah. My hand raises its hands automatically. I just cannot. So it's really difficult being with me and my hand. I think peace is a practice of embracing our inheritance. Being with peace, I think Jamar found the strength in this story. he found the strength to maintain his composure in the midst of a crying child, of a child having a temper tantrum. And so the strength of love reveals itself through peace. Our most remembered leaders changed the world using the strength of peace. Jesus was one of them, Buddha another, and there are many. Gandhi. Gandhi demonstrated that violence is not necessary for revolution. I'm going to make sure we're spotlighted here, and we are. Okay? Over and over, the people of India came out and showed the power of peaceful protest that gained the independence of India. To me, that is huge. I'm reminded of Martin Luther King, who solved racial inequities using nonviolent protest and marches and boycotts to effect change. Nelson Mandela, 27 years in prison, and he was elected president of South Africa. And through peaceful methods, he created a new constitution for South Africa that advanced the human freedoms of rights for property, housing, health care, education, access to information, access to the courts for all South African people. To me, that is an amazing feat. And it was done peacefully. It was amazing strength that came through peace. And then there's the Dalai Lama, who was forced to leave Tibet when the Chinese invaded Tibet, and preached peace and happiness and compassion and love and nonviolence in the world. And then there is the story of Jamar and his son. He did not yell, he did not raise his voice, he did not scold or threaten or punish. He stayed with peace, and he found a strength not to force. And frankly, I was in awe with this. And so patience, trust, acceptance, completeness, peace, these are connecting qualities. They connect us to ourselves. They connect us to Source. And when we are in these qualities, when we are with them, we are remembering ourselves. We are remembering love. And I have here a few examples of forcing versus non-forcing. Forcing would be demanding. Non-forcing would be requesting. Saying I should versus saying I want. Forcing would be to fight or defend. Non-forcing would be to be defenseless. To justify versus to be just. To hope for more versus to become more. To take advantage of another. To advance another. To have power over another. To have power with another. And so Jamar listened patiently with acceptance, found a sense of completeness, was undisturbed, unable to be shaken, which may have even made his son even more angry. So who do we identify with? Do we identify with Jamar in the story or the child in the story? And admittedly, sometimes I identify with the child, which is why I'm doing this lesson. Because when I teach what I want to learn, then I become a better student to what I want to learn. So I'm coming to my conclusion. Source never forces, but always invites you to know yourself. The doorway to know yourself is through patience, acceptance, trusting, a sense of completeness, and the strength of peace. And I'm going to read another little paragraph. I will never force, because I will never force my love. For my love is freely given, like the air you breathe. Forcing is not my nature and therefore is not your nature. Everything is in the process of moving towards me in one way or another. And the further you move away from me, the greater the pull to come back to me, which is why everything is perfect and thus perfectly complete. I am the playground and the groundkeeper, and you are my child creating your playtime. Take my breath, so we may breathe together, play together, and both know our completeness. Bathing in ourselves, bathing in my shared love, as your own love. Your inheritance is here. So I believe that when we are patient, accepting, peaceful, and holding completeness, a sense of completeness, we are accepting the gifts of our inheritance. And these gifts are here. We do not create them. They are divine qualities that are given to us from Source. And are we accepting these gifts? And in this story, Jamar accepted these gifts. So here are some questions. What strategies do we use to keep our peace? How do we be vulnerable to trust? And by accepting the love that is right here, how do we accept that love? And what do we whisper to ourselves to find our completeness? And so now the meeting is open, and um, I'm going to ask Virginia to put everyone on gallery view.
Are we not on gallery view?
To put on speaker view.
Impatience is with myself. I do more under the breath cussing at Virginia than I do anyone else. I can be patient with others. I have to work on that. As a kid, I think if we're impatient with ourselves, we really don't understand patience.
Patience and trusting and acceptance, they're like all part of a circle. And if you can get on that circle, on any one of those qualities, it opens up you have to other qualities that you have access to. So they're somehow all connected.
I think patience to me means that you open your mind to be a receiver, and that at times tell yourself, I need more information. So if you're listening to someone, instead of trying to finish their sentence, listen to their full dialogue, and you may learn then that maybe you had some preconceived notions about them or the topic, and you learned something by just waiting and being receptive. For example, Thomas Edison, to me, is always a good example of someone with an extreme amount of patience. He made a statement: I had 10,000 failures when I was trying to create the electric light bulb, but I knew 10,000 ways that it didn't work. So I was always open for the next trial and something that would work. And he finally happened when he discovered tungsten. Um, on the other hand, patience does have its limits, because if you sit around on your rear end and waiting and doing nothing, that turns into negligence, and you don't want that to happen. So at some point, you have to follow your inner guidance and say, I've been patient enough. It's now time for action.
I really liked your story from Abraham Hicks. It's a good reminder to me when I feel tense that I've moved away from source and I have to get back to my own center again. That's a typical pattern with me. Who do I think that story was delightful. It's okay, Jamar. We're soon we'll be out of here. And I really like it that he was talking to himself. And so who can I identify with? I can identify with the dad and the boy. because sometimes I'm really patient, and then other times I just want to whine. And where I lose patience the most is with Dan.
Who, me?
And there I'm working on since being a student of Unity, knowing that he's a mere reflection of what's going on in me, I've been stopping when I lose patience, and then when I lose my patience, and then allowing myself to go into that vulnerability area and just state more of where I'm at. And it usually works out pretty well. So I really like your division between patience, trust, and acceptance or peace.
I'm when I hear that word, the acceptance, there's a transparency that comes through. There's an honesty that you can be honest with yourself. That you can accept what's going on inside of you, and then practice being patient with it. And kind of like Dan said, sometimes you need to move or inspired to say something. You know, this is what I'm feeling, or this isn't okay with me at this time. And so there's that transparency that is part of that mix when it comes to patience and acceptance and trusting yourself to be vocal of what's going on inside of you.
I just wanted to comment, doctors have a financial incentive to not lose their patients.
Mark. Right now I'm working on the whole trust thing because I think I mentioned I need a sewer line replaced, which is like huge big bucks. And I thought I was going to be able to refinance and that would solve it. And it isn't. So I'm like, okay, God, what do you want me to do here? You know, it's like, you know, so I'm looking for the guidance now and kind of feeling in victim, you know, and I don't know how to get out of victim, you know, it's like, okay. Trust. What is it the course says? Holy Spirit, help me see this differently, you know. Help. You know, it's interesting. Every time I've gone, help, it comes, you know. So
For me, trust is probably the biggest component. I mean, I struggle with trust a lot because I've had so many situations in my life that were hard for me to carry, and where love did not seem to be there. But, you know, even in those situations, love was there somewhere. And so learning to trust that. And kind of like you said, that trusting love is trusting the love through me, you know, to help me to see things differently, you said, Carol. And, and that's a practice. Love is a practice. Patience is a practice. Trusting is a practice. And I think it's a worthy practice.
I think our connections make it easier for us to find that practice.
Yeah.
So, we've come to the time, if there are no other comments, when we'd like to start our closing. And one of the things we're going to do is sing our peace song to ourselves, so we can mute ourselves again. light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever we are, God is, and I am divine.